Hi guys, welcome back to GingerChickRehab. I'm so glad to have you visiting our channel today. If you are new here, this is something I do with my husband Chris. We take thrift store found items and we repurpose them, we make them over, and we give them new life. And here on our channel, we share the process with you of what we do to these items. In today's video, it is a furniture flip. So these are some bedside tables. What is the chances in 1 week's time going to one Goodwill, finding a chunky, heavy bedside table, going a couple days later, finding another chunky bedside table, stopping at a garage sale on the way home from work one Saturday to find another chunky bedside table. And just for fun, I'm gonna throw another little side table in there that I got at the garage sale. So yeah, I'm like, okay, well, apparently we need to do some chunky, heavy bedside tables. So they do actually sell really well for us, as long as I can thrift them low enough between reselling, if I can find them for under $10, depending on how much work we need to put into them, and we can retail them between the $60 and $70 price range. They sell pretty good, and I think that's a pretty good profit. So in today's video, we're going to share with you our vision of how we fix and make these items over. So stay tuned to what Chris does to these bedside tables, and I am in there a little bit helping because there were 4 tables to do. So stay tuned.
So here they are. This is the first one that I ran across. I love the chunkiness. It has all this beautiful detail. An $8.09 price tag. I'm like, okay, yes. These are definitely one of those side tables, the bedside tables that sell really well for us. Yep, got a little bit of damage, but that's okay. We need to scuff sand it anyway, so hopefully that won't be a problem. But all the hardware is there. You can definitely tell that you can remove that contact paper, but a beautiful piece. So the person pricing these must not like these chunky, heavy side tables. But yeah, this one was $8.09 also. It's a little bit on the masculine side, but it is a good, strong, heavy piece. And this one too is in great condition. Just some beautiful details on this piece. Okay, so I may have spoke too soon. It looks like it's missing its bottom guide. So here it is, the third one. What's the chances of finding 3 in 1 week? So this one actually was a garage sale around the corner from our house. Now this one, it's not as nice of condition, but I think I got a bundle pack, so it made this like $5. I was buying multiple pieces, so kind of a wonky paint job that was definitely really dirty. We got some water damage. And then this one was the same thing. It was $5, a little side table. As you could see, it was somebody's set that they made matching by adding the knobs. Now don't be deceived that that pull on there is it's just decorative. But yes, you can definitely see the wear on this piece. Now I think this is a pretty good investment. What do you got? $16, $26, $27, $28 maybe if you add in tax. Under $30, I've got 3 pieces of furniture. So definitely thought that was a good week. So Chris is going to start right off with assessing all the pieces. So that means taking out any of the contact paper and removing any of the hardware, getting your hands on these pieces to see what I brought home to him for him to fix. Now, as Chris is here showing you that one of the guides for the bottom of the drawer is missing, I'm on the other side of the table. I'm looking inside. There's always like pennies, pieces of paper, and what he did not video was, voila, I found that piece of metal in there, so he did not have to make one. Now, this side table, this is a little bit different of a story. Yep, its guides are there, but they are all coming off. You know, a lot of the hardware is not there. Just has to remove this one pole. And as you see, the inside of the drawers are a little bit worse for wear. And I always love people's creativity. Though the pieces are not an exact match, you painted the match and you put the same poles on them. So you made a matching set. So the one thing when you're thrifting and finding pieces to redo, you have no idea what the paint is that they use. So Chris is kind of assessing with his little scraper tool, seeing if he can get some of this. I'm assuming it's like a chalk paint. So in my mind, oh, if it's not sealed, it's going to come off really easy. And nope, that was not the case. So now he's going to the orbital sander. He's got some 80 grit sandpaper on there, and now he's really trying to work it off. This paint is on there. Oh my goodness, it is nice and strong. Usually the sandpaper that we use just destroys paint. We don't very seldom ever have to use a stripper, but I think with this, whatever paint this is, we're gonna need it. So yep, he's going to the stripper. He's gonna try some of the citrus strip and see how that works. So he's just gonna do his hand protection, make sure he has gloves on, and then he's just going to apply it to this table and wrap it in some plastic so it doesn't dry out, and let it do what it's supposed to do and help remove that paint. Now, as he was working on the drawers and that little side table, I was over here and I was able to get most of the paint off of this, but the little crevices I wasn't really able to get into. So after a few hours, he comes back to it, does a little tester piece to see if it is pulling off the paint. And yeah, thrifted pieces, you have no clue on what kind of paint they used. Now this one also has a chipped corner. At least the wood is still there. It's just cracked, so it needs to have some Titebond wood glue put in there. And then after he works that into there, he will just put a couple clamps and then let it dry. Now, unfortunately, I didn't notice that one. I don't know if it got lost or it got chipped off in the back of the truck. I'm not really sure. I didn't realize that this one too, the other drawer was missing a whole little piece. This one wasn't there. You can't glue it if it's not there. So he's mixing up some Durham water putty. And if you are new to Durham water putty is a powder that you mix in with a liquid. And depending on what you're doing or you need it to fill or build is how thick you make your paste. So what he's doing here is he needs a thicker paste because he's going to rebuild that corner. As you can see here, he cut a piece of cardboard, and on the piece of the cardboard he has some packing tape, and he cut a V into it, and now as you see he's clamping it to that piece. That's going to give him a guide, a nice tight fit from underneath to make that side flat and that this Durham water putty just doesn't fall all the way through. That's giving it something to sit up on. And so what he's doing is he's just filling in that gap, and then he'll walk away and let it sit up. So now there's a little bit of wonkiness around the edge of here. You can kind of see that ended up being just a thin piece of veneer board that we ended up accidentally sanding through while working the paint off. It just happens before you know it. So I really thought this, as heavy it was, that it was going to be solid wood, and sometimes it deceives you. So he's just filling that in with some Durham water putty. And then after that sets up and dries, that Durham water putty is sandable. So he's just going to back in with the orbital sander and making sure that it's nice and smooth. I'm not really sure. He's probably rethinking my $5 purchase by this point. Now he can go back in and check those corners. This is the corner that he glued if he needs to sand anything so that it's nice and smooth, but the Titebond did its job and glued those pieces together. Now let's see how the Durham water putty did for this corner. Did it keep it flat? Is it nice and strong? Yes, we have used this a lot and we have great luck and no problems. So voila, you have a new corner piece that just needs to be sanded smooth to match up. Then after getting those corners all fixed and sanded nice and smooth, he's just going to go back through and take some Starbond glue and get that put back on those glides so that these drawers will slide in and out properly. And then if you're interested in any of the Starbond glue, there's an affiliate link down in the bottom for 15% off. Now, these two side tables probably felt neglected. All they needed was a scuff sanding and vacuumed off, and yeah, they didn't have much work, luckily. I think the other one made up for all the work. That I'm glad they all weren't as needy. So now to clean these pieces, we're just going to be going in with some Superclean This is our go-to all the time for cleaning. It's a concentrate. You mix in a liquid, you put it in a spray bottle. You can put, a lot of times you see us using it in buckets, but absolutely love it. It does not require you to rinse. We've had no problems with any paint not sticking, especially in our workshop where we don't have water. Just a great go-to product for cleaning. You need something that will clean and degrease and get any buildup. Over time, when you get thrifted pieces, they might have pledge or anything like that to help them shine, which does not help your paint stick. So this Superclean has always been our tried and true, and so far it has not failed us.
So hi guys, I'm popping in here to talk about a giveaway. If you watch Ginger Chick enough, you know that we are huge fans of Superclean. So it is a great degreaser, great prep. They have a world of wonderful cleaning products, and it has been our go-to for quite a while. In our workshop, we don't have any running water, so we get a bucket of hot water and we just add some Superclean to it, wipe off our furniture pieces, our thrifted pieces, and you know that they are thrifted found pieces, that they definitely need to be clean, and no rinsing required. We have not ever had any problems whatsoever not rinsing these items off. They've always been prepped really well and ready for us to paint. So why not team up with Superclean, a product that we stand behind, that we absolutely love, for you all who never tried it or do try it, and who doesn't like a freebie. So the rules will be down in my description box. So basically, you need to comment on my channel, and you need to be subscribed to our channel, and then hashtag GingerChickRehab, so I know that you'd like to be entered in the contest, along with, if you would, but not necessarily, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I sure would appreciate that. And if you have a TikTok, why not? See what I'm up to. I make short little videos on those channels, those social media sites also. So don't forget to comment below if you're interested in winning some Superclean.
Now that we are prepped, we are sanded, we are super clean, now it's time to get these prepped, because it's a little bit on the shiny side. Still didn't want to take them all the way down to cause any problems like I did on the other piece. He's going in with just some bins primer and giving it a nice couple coats, just to make sure that that paint that we're going to put on these is going to stick well on this shininess. And then the primer on this piece definitely will even out that porosity, where you've got that veneered little piece of wood board, and then you got the Durham water putty, and where some of the MDF underneath was showing through. This is going to equal out on how the paint takes to the top of this. Now that all those tabletops and all the surface areas that he wanted to prime are primed, now he's going back in with this ready-to-use black onyx, as in the flat sheen we get from Walmart, and he's going to go around all the edges, the detailed areas, because when we go to the finished product is going to be distressed, so that means we're going to sand off the areas, and we don't want to have to see that primer. So the area with the color that we want to see when we go to distress it is this black. So we've learned we don't need to paint the entire piece if we're just going to distress the edges, so just paint a couple coats of this black on the edges. So now that that black is dry, he's going to go ahead and he's going to be using a sprayer, a paint sprayer on these pieces. So he's going to need to wrap the drawers. So this is a random weird roll. I'm calling it weird because I thrifted this thing forever ago for $6.09 at one of the Goodwills that I visit. And that was actually even before we had a sprayer. So look at how, I think they're little trash bags. I don't know, but I have to tell you, it's one of the best purchases I ever made. I didn't even know we were going to need it, but it's definitely worked very well for wrapping these drawers. So the cart Chris is using is a little Black & Decker Workmate stool. It's on wheels. It's an assistant like a sawhorse, but it's on wheels. So he's using it to cart these items back and forth out of our spray room. Very ingenious. Yep, I thrifted it. Never underestimate what you can find at a thrift store for very reasonably priced. So that way he can roll this one back out and he can bring another one back in. Just works out perfectly. He's got a little pieces of wood, so he has a place to use his hands and grab these pieces. And he's using our Graco sprayer. Now this Graco sprayer, the hose goes into a gallon of paint, and we're using the Kills paint and primer. We're still blessed that our local Walmart is still carrying it. So when it comes to white paint, it's not one of those that's usually going to cover in one coat, especially since we have that black detail that you can definitely see from the underneath the first coat. So we're going to have to go over with the second coat, which usually does it, and then let that dry and then flip it over and get whatever you hadn't gotten the first time. Now that all those pieces are painted, we're going to let them dry overnight. Now we need to assess the hardware, and most of the hardware was there. We did find a couple other pieces to replace the knobs that were missing in our stash that I thrift probably way too much, but you don't want to pass it up because you never know. So I took the hardware in, cleaned it with some hot water and Dawn dish soap, rinsed it really well, let it dry. Now after these have dried overnight, he's going to go back in and sand them. So he has a piece of 300 sandpaper on the orbital sander. On this Ridgit sander, it has a speed control, so he has it on the lowest speed. So what it's doing is just making the sides, that flat area, nice and smooth and evening out and in that texture the sprayer might have left behind. And now he's going back in with some 220 sandpaper on all the edges. He wants all that detail to pop. We spent the time painting it black, and then we did miss the video of sealing it in with some polyacrylic, and that polyacrylic's keeping that black on there. If we did not seal it in, the chances of you sanding all the way through because it doesn't have a top coat. If you go very, very gingerly, maybe not, but if you seal that black in with a top coat, the chances of it staying are a lot better. So yep, he's just going in with that sandpaper and distressing all these beautiful details on this piece. Here's some detail that you can really see a little bit better with that 220 sandpaper. Just go in with a light touch, let the sandpaper do what the sandpaper does and remove that top layer of paint. The harder you push, the more farther you're going to go down. So if you push just lightly, it will just show the back. If you really want to distress it and get a lot, you can go to town and go push down really hard, but we just like those little sharp edges in that black just to make these details pop on this white. And then he'll take the scuff sanding sponge with the lighter grit just to make sure that those flat surfaces are nice and smooth, but not distressing them. So now now it's my turn to take over. So when I picked this one up, I definitely thought that brown and these drawer fronts just looked really masculine. And of course, in my idea was for him to take them off, but that was not going to work. So I was trying to decide what I could do, going in stenciling, what can you do, but I finally figured out, I think that the decoupage paper, this Tim Holtz decoupage paper, I think I can fit it into that area. And as you see, nope, I couldn't remove anything, so I have to gingerly work it in there, work around that piece of wood in the middle. So I'm assessing how I'm going to go at it. So now I think since I have plenty that will cover this whole area, I'm just going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to gingerly cut down the sides the width of what that middle is. And so I'm just going to double check that I'm where I need to be, and then I'm going to work from there and cut the other shorter pieces. Oh, I think I even surprised myself that that actually worked. So now I'm just going to go in with some Mod Podge. I'm going to do the few little underneath the handle first and then work my way out. And then after I get the decoupage paper laid down, I'm not going to attempt to cut it or do the top coat until it dries. So before setting these off to the side, I should share with you, when I cut my 2 pieces of paper, there's a reoccurring pattern on the matching pattern every so often on the whole roll. So when I was looking for a pattern, I cut 2 pieces of paper, but I matched them up exactly in the hopes that when I halved it to cut that centerpiece, that my 2 drawers are matching up. So even though Chris fixed the drawer glides for this, there's still a little bit of wonkiness. This poor little side table still has got a little bit of perfectly imperfect, but we are salvaging it, and it's going to be nice once we're completely finished. But it's still having some problems. So when I took the drawers out to start working on it, I'm like, oh, here's the culprit. It's missing some of the little levelers on it that keep it up to be sliding in and out perfectly. As you can see, there's a gap and no gap on one side. So what I need to do is I just have these tongue depressors. I'm just going to be cutting them to match up the pieces that I just took off. I rather have 4 matching pieces that way, and then I know it's going to be level. So I ended up cutting 8 pieces to match the thickness of what the original pieces were, and so now I'm just using some Starbond CA glue to glue these thin little pieces down. Love this stuff, can't recommend it enough. So there's always a reason that drawers are wonky, whether it be the guides, whether it be these little levelers. There's all these little things in a drawer that slide in and out that make it work and make it perform properly. And then I'm going to go into and then glue them right in place. And then as I'm gluing them, I'm going to use the accelerator that dries it within 15 seconds. And now these drawers will slide in and out. They'll be level. So what they're doing is that guide, it would tip the drawer forward, and so when you're going to set it in, the slides weren't sliding back and forth properly. So I decided that these drawer fronts are going to get some of these beautiful flower stamps. They're nice flat area. It's a very workable area, and I think it'll add just a little something to the front of these drawers. So I'm just going around the entire drawers where that flat area is and just running some of this 2-inch tape. I don't want to accidentally get paint on the edges that I don't want to be painted, so when I'm going to stamp them on, that I'm just hitting the areas where I want it to be. So now I'm going to put my stamp on my flexible mount. This is nice for these bigger stamps. So I'm going to go in with some Waverly ink chalk paint and use a brayer and roll it on the stamp. And then with a little bit of holding our breath that I don't mess up what I am doing, and I'm nice and level, and I'm pressing down. I'm trying to rub, make sure that it's all transferring from the stamp onto the drawer. And then I need to go back in, repaint it up, get some more paint on that stamp, and now try to match up the pattern. There, it is made to be matched up. And then I'm like, oh, I might be touching the other side. Oh, all these things you have to decide as you're like, paint don't dry, paint don't dry, paint don't dry. But I am paying attention to that top drawer that I'm hopefully only on the tape area. And then now I have to commit, because sooner or later I have to put this down before my paint dries. The two top drawers should be a little bit easier because I don't have to try to match up, even though I am looking at the pattern below me, trying to match it up, and then making sure it was transferred. But I'm like, oh, you know what? I was so good about the bottom drawer not touching, but now I'm going to have to match up that pattern. It's okay. I can work with it. It's okay. I can work with it. So that I don't smear my paint on the other side trying to match up the pattern, I'm going to take a blow dryer and make sure that this paint is good and dry first. And now I just have to pay attention to where I need to match up this. Whew. Sometimes things in your mind are easier than they are when you actually go to do them. That's drying off to the side. I'm going to go in and put some of this Dollar Tree contact paper in to hide the bottom of these drawers. You're not going to be rebuilding drawers, but at least we can make them look like they're as good as almost new. So I have pretty good luck with putting contact paper in drawers. So what I do is I always take that front where the manufacturer's cut is, and I make sure that it's nice and level. And then I go around, I try to cut as much to the shape of the drawer as I can, to the size, and then I go around with my fingernail and make sure that I've got it in all the crevices. And then I pull down those corners so I can see where the two sides are meeting, and then I relieve the pressure by cutting a little piece into it. And that way when I go around with my X-Acto knife and my tool here, I can make it a cut, and then it just cuts right off without ripping. And then now I'm back to this drawer, and after it has dried and it's set up, that way it's not going to tear when I'm taking the X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to go around the whole entire edge and cut off that excess. And then for the top coat of this decoupage paper, I'm going to go ahead and just give it a coat of the polyacrylic, just so I know that it's going to be good and sealed in there. So now I'm going to go back in, and there's a lot of texture from that chalk paint, and I'm just going to give it a light sanding to make sure that it's a little bit more smooth. And then I'm going to go ahead and seal this in with some polyacrylic also. Now, if I would rethink this the next time, I should have used a spray, because, you know, as you add wetness to chalk paint, it reactivates it. But it turned out okay. Now, what to do with this side table? It's just a nice, simple side table. It has all those detailed legs. And if you're thinking grain sack stripes, then you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. So to start out, I'm going to start out with some 2-inch Dollar General tape, masking tape. I'm just going to start right off the sides. That way I can work in, and then I know that my lining is going to be centered. So when I'm working in like this, I'm going to be doing 3 stripes. So my first stripe is going to be skinny, because I'm working, usually I work from the middle and then out to the 2 outer sides. But when I'm doing it this way, I'm going to be working with that smaller stripe right from the get-go. Now for my paint color choice, I'm going to be using this multi-use apple barrel paint in black, and a makeup sponge that I get at the dollar store to apply. I made sure that I rubbed on my masking tape really well, making sure that it was down. And then I'm doing that dabbing technique where you put paint on and then you take most of it off. That way you're not getting a whole bunch on, and the chances of it going underneath your tape accidentally. So it's just one of those little slow processes, but absolutely the end result is way worth it. Because I don't have a lot of patience for paint to dry, I usually always use the assistance of a blow dryer to help dry this paint. And then I'm going to put one more coat on just to achieve that black that I'm looking for. And my personal preference is to use that blow dryer again, heat that tape up, make sure that my paint is dry, and use that tape to help release that sticky so I'm not accidentally pulling off that white paint that we spent so much time at painting on. So now I have to just decide how much blank space I want between my next stripe. So what I'm doing here is I'm having just the regular size masking tape that I get from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm just making sure that it's all the way over, and you can I like the masking tape because you can see through it, so that way I know where my blank spacing will be, my unpainted spacing will be. I'm going to go ahead and take another piece of that Dollar Tree masking tape and butt it right up to that tape. I'm going to take yet again another piece of masking tape and butt that right up to that piece of masking tape, and then I'm going to remove that tape in the middle. Now flip over to the other side, do the exact same thing, and paint it just like I did that very first stripe. So now I'm going to measure out visually with my eyes, just eyeballing what my spacing is. And yet again, eyeballing to see how big my third stripe will be, trying to eyeball that it's going to be the same size as the first stripe that I painted. It's the perfectly imperfect of green sack striping. That's the fun of it all. Yes, I fast forward right through that third stripe. How many times can you see me paint a stripe? So now after that, I took the blow dryer, make sure that it was dry. I wanted to stress it a little bit, so I'm just taking some sandpaper and just taking off that it's not so harsh of a black that it goes with the piece that's distressed. There's a difference between not adding enough paint on and distressing a piece. That's why I do the 2 coats. I want it to be that black, but I also want to tone down the black just a little bit by taking some sandpaper to it. After getting it all blown off, getting rid of all that sanding dust, I'm just going to take a wet wipe and just make sure that it is a nice clean surface. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp on the number 2. So I'm just going to use some of my IOD stamps. I'll link them in the below in the description box just to give it a little bit more something. After I got them where I think I want them to be, I'm going to go ahead and grab them with my flexible mount. The stamps are sticky, hopefully, and that I'm just going to grab them, and then to get them all inked up, I'm going to use the Stays on Ink in Black. And I forgot to add in that I did put that piece of masking tape at the bottom. That way on both sides, I'm going to stamp it on both sides. I know where I need to place the stamp, that it stays nice and level and both sides are even. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice misting, nice coat of the clear coat by Rust-Oleum. That's going to seal those grain sack stripes in, and that Stays on Ink. You have a nice protection on this top. And yes, or no, I guess for the one that had all that detail, I left it plain white, just plain white sells for us really well. So we will see how putting some detail on those chunky bedside tables go. But for this one, I'm just finishing up using some Varathane finishing wax. And all the pieces actually will get a finishing coat of this. Now, only one of the drawers needed re-drilled for some hardware. We filled that hardware in. So now Chris is using, this is a Krag tool that helps you with hardware, your knobs, your pulls. It helps keep it centered. Just a nice handy tool if you do a lot of furniture flipping, or you're going to do your kitchen cupboards or anything like that. So see how it makes it so you can adjust it to what your fitting is for this pull. And then he just is going to measure off, making sure that he has it in the center. That's always key, isn't it? want them to be centered. And then he can take his drill and he just drills them right into those holes. And now he has his holes drilled for this pole. It may seem like a little bit of work, but boy, it takes the stress out. That way you know that you're getting them where they need to be. And then yes, you do sometimes have to go back in. It just makes a little hole, so sometimes you have to go back in with a bigger drill bit.
So what did you think about the chunky bedside tables? Now, I have never done any detail on the chunky bedside tables. That's what I call them. I'm not really sure what the proper name is. That's just what I call it. We've always just painted them white and they sell automatically. I know at the time of me finishing this video, we'd already put just the plain white one in and it already sold as soon as we put it in there. The one with the decoupage paper is in there now, so we'll see how it goes. So, you know, you just never know. In my area, people like things plain, if they like a little bling on it. But you know what? It's always, you can always redo it. You can always lower the price. It's just fun to try out different techniques. So I hope I have inspired you to look at thrift store items in a new way. Check out your marketplace, do a little furniture flip. Actually, I used to do, when I started, when it was just me before Chris jumped in, that was my biggest thing. I did a lot of little side tables and flipped them in marketplace all the time. So if you're looking for a place to start doing and you want to do a little bit bigger pieces, sorry, I had to stop for a second. My air compressor decided to charge itself. So not all, you know, the two wooden ones, they are perfect flips for beginners. There was really nothing wrong with those pieces. Yep, the white ones are a little bit, but you can just pick and choose. But that is where I began. Little tables like that, I flip them, sell them in marketplace. We all have to start someplace. So I just thought I would throw that in and share it with you. So thank you so much for watching today's video. And if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. I have the most supportive group of followers. Oh my gosh, you're kind, and everybody's just so nice here on our channel. So, and if you're new and you're checking out our content for the first time and you like what you saw, hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.